We're going to camp. You ready to go to camp? We got some camp intel from Leanne, and it's always good to be secure and have the position of offensive tackle lined up, and that needs to be a strength if you want to win championships. And this is a really good one out of Texas.
Felix Ojo is a kid that everyone has been talking about. Now, he's one of the younger kids in the class of 2026, but like I said, in his case, age is just a number. It does not define him being on the younger side does not define the type of talent. He's really grown from his sophomore to his junior season, and he continues to be that guy. You're seeing him, of course, here this weekend. He was just a monster in the one-on-ones, and I think he was already one of the top tackles in the country. I think he was coming in. They have him at 6'6". He's probably closer to 6'7", around 273 or so. But like I said, he's one of those guys that he's the number 4 overall player. They have him as a number 6 offensive tackle, but I do believe as we get deeper into the camp circuit and definitely after his performance out in Dallas at Melissa High School this weekend, that he's going to have no problem continuing to solidify what all of us and in the Texas scene have been watching him do over down at Lake Ridge High School in Mansfield, Texas. But again, like many of these kids, he's got a wonderful list of offers that any person would be envious from the jump. But like many of these players, they want to go in and they want to head into their senior season, kind of not necessarily making a choice, but narrowing down. And last week, prior to his arrival at the Under Armour camp, he did trim down his list to a top 8. So these are the guys, as I like to say, the guys who still remain in the hunt for Ojo services, one of the top offensive tackles to come out of Texas and in the country. Of course, Texas looking to keep his talent close to home. Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Ole Miss. So tune into Ole Miss Live tomorrow. We'll have more with Ojo. We got to talk with him and share a little bit more about that because the Rebels are in the running. Florida, Georgia, and rounding it out with Oklahoma. Like I said, when you watch his film, and I've had the chance to watch him in person, live reps, during his high school football season, I really got to see him up close and personal in San Antonio, like many of us did with those live reps. And just what I've heard and exchanging comparisons from other scouts and national media while we're at these events, that we both all kind of come to the consensus. I think the general consensus as far as Ojo's talent is he's really made that jump and he's made that growth from year to year. And you really want to see that, especially when it comes to a tackle. It's not as easy to be a lineman. It is not as easy to develop. You can have the size, you can have the power, but if you don't have all those little things that make the world go round, that make you a successful tackle at the next level, it's pretty much done. But Ojo's not the case in that. He's one of those kids that gets better and better by the minute, and it is no question why he's such in high demand. Like again, I said I saw him at the Navy All-American Bowl, and he just really, for being one of the younger guys, you would never know because he's just transcended when it comes to his skill set, and he's definitely progressed. And he's not in rookie form by any means. He's extremely physical. He's athletic, and what I love about him, despite his already towering frame, he's not your typical lineman that's already got a lot of meat on him. He still has a ton of room to be able to put some muscle on him and even become more physical, which I think will only see more of heading into this off season and summer season. So I expect him to bulk up, and I expect that not only increase his stock but his physicality. So I'm gonna love to see the difference between seeing him from December, and he's already grown enough into this, heading into mid-February. I can't wait to see him where he grows when he continues to hit the weight room this off season and even become more physical. Like I said, he continues to separate himself. I'm trying to look at my notes and try not to repeat myself as far as just what he brings to the table, but all weekend long, from what you saw on that film, he just commanded the one-on-ones, and I think he really made the case for anybody who hasn't seen him or followed his career outside the Texas recruiting circuit, that he is one of the top tackles, not only in the state of Texas, but in the country right now. And we got a chance to talk with him about, why in particular, Mark, did he choose these top schools? And he said that realistically, he sees himself playing at all of these top schools. And he really wants to be at a place where he can make an impact early while having great relationships and with every staff member. So, it's going to be a tough haul. It's going to be a tough spring for some of these programs because he can already see himself. He's already developed great relationships with these places. He's already feels like he can play there. Now, as I always say in recruiting, now who's going to separate themselves from the pack? Who's going to ultimately be where he can see himself all the way around, not just being, a first rounder kind of pick and development, but also getting a great education. And and that goes back to, we know what kind of talent he is, but he himself, what he's looking for, he says he's really looking for a future home where he can be developed to be a first rounder. I mean, he's got big dreams, and he's well on his way to it. And he also wants to get a great education. So he wants the best of both worlds. So who's it going to be? Texas, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, that's going to be able to give Ojo the best of both worlds. But again, extremely physical, agile, and he's a really, if you were going, another thing, if you were going, like I said, if you're going to take a risk and you're going to build on that foundational talent, especially out of Texas, he's by no means that typical highfalutin conditional talent coming. He is as advertised, and each time you see him grow and progress, and he's definitely one that could be an instant impact player. Maybe not a starter heading on, but he definitely has a lot of foundation and skill set that I think will be invaluable to some of these programs that are really looking to build a stronger depth and be a depth piece that can make an impact down the line here for that 2026 class.
Now, coming off the edge, we've got another player out of Texas, and we don't need to go back too far to the national semifinal when Texas was 1 yard away from going to possibly a national championship game and trying to upset Ohio State when Jack Sawyer, a former five-star, came off the edge and hit Quinn Ewers and stripped the ball and went scoop and score. So these guys can be disruptive, and they can make a difference, obviously, in pressuring the quarterback and making game-changing plays when you get a good one. And here we've got one in Kevin Ford.
Kevin Ford is also another kid that I've had the pleasure of seeing up close and personal. He comes out of Powerhouse, Duncanville. There was a lot of Duncanville presence, of course, one of the powerhouse football programs, anchored by Keelan Russell in the offense. There was a lot of guys out there making a presence. Kevin Ford is a kid that is well known here on the Texas circuit and definitely on the national circuit. He continues to be on the rise. Of course, you can see him being there, number 11 in the country as far as the edge position, coming out of number 5 here out of 15 out of the Lone Star State. But like you said, Mark, it is really a game of inches. And in those big moments, you want impact players on the defensive side of a ball, like an edge guy who can really create chaos and really cause disruption. And Kevin Ford was one of those guys all weekend long. So where exactly he put on a heck of a show, but I think what everyone wants to know, within the state of Texas and out, especially coming out of Duncanville, where is Kevin Ford heading this spring and the summer? So some of the early dates that he shared that he'll be looking at, obviously, he'll be making a stop in Tuscaloosa, out in Alabama, to see Alabama at the end of May on the 30th. Texas A&M, of course, making a huge push. Texas A&M really making a huge push as far as recruiting for this 2026 and 2027 in-state class. Mike Elko and his staff, of course, hiring former Ole Miss director of personnel DJ Mann, who has endless ties here in the state of Texas, has really been showing they really are being making a push for keeping a lot of this in-state talent. And Kevin Ford definitely is no different. He's set to visit A&M on June 13th, Oklahoma, and round out with the Sooners, as far as we know, June 20th. Now, despite staying in the SEC kind of schools, that's kind of where we've been hearing that Ford really wants to make his home, whether it be close to home at A&M or not too far off the way with the Oklahoma Sooners, and maybe Tuscaloosa. But there are some rumblings that Lincoln Riley, USC, really looking to make room in a place for him, obviously trying to bolster and find success and really get that defensive depth going with a dynamic player like Kevin Ford. So we're hearing that USC might be able to be a late push on that, possibly receiving a visit from Ford early June. But again, nothing has been confirmed for either camp, but it looks like he's going to remain in the SEC. Some other schools to watch aside from USC that are really making a late push. Obviously, the Sunshine State is looking to get a bolster, and we're hearing that Florida State and Florida are also in the mix. They have, again, he hasn't anything said as far as unofficials or official visits, but there's talks that if they make a good push, and as we see some of these schools, make pushes in other direction, this could open the door for Florida, USC, and Florida State later in the summer to possibly land at least a visit, maybe not an official visit, but an unofficial visit from top edge rusher Kevin Ford out of Duncanville.